for making this possible at all. Let me now begin with another technique Sunil sir has shared with us, and I'm sure you'll all enjoy it. So today we'll speak about technique Sunil sir shared in his Nakshatra course, and it's about eclipse degrees. So the eclipse degrees before and after the birth of a person. Those are sensitive points in the chart. Some very special degrees that very few take into consideration, but they hold very, very big importance. So the technique is like this. Step one is, of course, to see with the program of astrology, the software you're using, the first lunar and solar eclipse before and after birth. So for instance, if you're born on January 1st, see if there was an eclipse, like say in November or October, and the next one which occurred after birth in like March or April. So just check that out. Jagannath Hora offers this possibility. I'm using Jagannath Hora's indications, and if you want, in the end, I can show if you do not know how to detect that. So
Yeah,
just
sorry to interrupt you. It would be nice. We do have time if you
yeah.
can demonstrate that, because I realize many people are very, and this is a very high-end technique. So and it's a very important technique ignored by everybody. And I learned it from somebody. It's not mine. I just go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I can show that at the end, right?
No, share on Jagannath Hora right now if you can.
Right now.
How
Okay. Okay, just a second. Let me open all right, my
cameras on, everybody, please. Let's always have respect for the Shastra.
So this is the Jagannath Hora. So this is just a present moment, and you would notice over here in mundane section. So there's this tab of mundane over here, and over here there's the eclipse mode, right? So this is the basics, Jagannath Hora opens 2, and then you go to mundane tab, and over here you have the eclipse mode, and this is what you're going to use. And you go like this. For instance, this is November 16th. Let's see when the previous lunar eclipse, when it occurred. And you select here previous or next, and lunar or solar. So see previous lunar and go to the maximum point, because that's going to show you the degree of maximum where the eclipse occurs. Because if you do not select maximum, it will you'll have some alterations, small alterations to the degree, but those would matter. So just click here on eclipse mode. So we're jumping from 16th November to the previous lunar eclipse. And immediately Jagannath Hora shows this here in the center. Do you see this in the center? Okay. And you see maximum eclipse point. It starts, it gives all the phases of the eclipse, the start of the penumbrals, the start of the partial, whatever. And you go to the maximum eclipse point when it occurred. Okay, so just for your information, if you want to make a note on the side, you can do that. And now you click OK over here, and you look at where moon degree, because we're looking at the moon eclipse, a lunar eclipse. And you'll have to see moon's degree over here. Yeah, so we have the previous lunar eclipse in my country, where I am. It occurred on September 7th at 20:11:39, and the moon was at 21 Aquarius 12. So note the degree and the minute, because that's going to be important. So this is the eclipse which occurred previous. Let's say what we showed in the beginning, it was a birth chart of somebody, and we checked the previous lunar eclipse. And then you go the same way to the next sorry, the next lunar eclipse. Okay, so we're jumping from September 7th, where we saw that moon was eclipsed at maximum point at 21:12 Aquarius. You make a note of that, because in the next time you open Jagannath, you'll have to start all over again. Jagannath Hora will not show you on display that when was the eclipse. And you go to the next, so you select next lunar eclipse after the birth. And it will take you the same. It will show you all the phases and when it took place, what hour and all. And you click OK, and it will show you March 3rd, 2026, the hour 13:33. In my country, it will be another lunar eclipse. And that will be, again, you look at moon's degree at 18 Leo 39. So take a note, the date, the degree of the moon, the sign, and the minute. Okay, just like Jagannath Hora is showing here. Okay, and then you go back to natal chart if you want to see the solar eclipse. So you see first the previous one before the time of birth you introduced in Jagannath Hora already. So this is just an example for right now. For any natal chart, you have to have the date of birth, the birth data already inserted into Jagannatha, saved. And from that point, you can go to check these lunar and solar eclipses. So first you check previous, and then you switch from lunar to global solar, not local solar, global solar. And also you maintain here the maximum, not the start, the maximum. And you just click eclipse mode. And we're going to jump back in time here to, it will show you the start, the maximum, and the end of the solar eclipse. And it will show you September 21st this year, 2141 in my country, a solar eclipse occurred. And you would check sun's degree over here, who was at 4 Virgo 52, almost 53. And you make a note of that too. And very easily, the same way you go to the next global solar eclipse, and it will shift you to February. Okay, maximum eclipse point. That's what really matters, the max. So February 17, 14, 11, sun will be at 4 Aquarius 38. So you note that. Actually, it's very easy if you have an eclipses table, let's say, for at least your location where you your practice, where you have your astrological practice, or you study, or people usually come and see you, friends or family, and just keep a table with all the eclipses from 1950 or whenever on the side. Have it ready in an Excel Word if you want to do this work. It's going to pay off because those degrees are, take time if you want to use them in your practice. So, you don't have to make the person wait, oh, let me see when the eclipse occurred prior or after your birth. And this is how you can use these degrees, because at sometimes you would see some transits, or the person will have some suffering or some problem, and you may not know why he or she is going through that. And this will be a contributing factor. I mean, it's not going to be the only factor, but it's definitely going to hold some importance, and it would be useful to have it. At least for your chart, do it, or your children's, or your family. And, keep a small note on the side. Okay, any questions until now? Do you want me to show an example or a practical chart? Let me see over here. Let's say Angelina Jolie. Okay, very famous person. Like this, you'll go to the previous lunar maximum point. So she was born June 4th, 1975. And now we're checking the first lunar eclipse prior to her birth. And you click on eclipse mode, and it will show you when the maximum eclipse point occurred on 24th of March, 1975. So she was born 4th of June, and this occurred, only 10 days prior to her birth. So moon, to moon's degree, never confuse moon with sun degrees, because you have to be very, very attentive, very careful with these notes. So moon was at 9 Scorpio 53, and you note that down if you want to, you have some celebrities, you want to watch their life, have news followed about them, and see how they reacted to these degrees. And then you check the next lunar point, moon is going to be at 2:24 in Taurus in November. So that's the next lunar eclipse after birth. All right. And you do the same for Sun, global solar maximum, and you check, and it's going to be, oh no, that I went too far. So you have to click back to natal chart so as to avoid any confusion. So we're going back to her natal chart. We're going to the previous global solar maximum, and it was on May 11th, before her birth, around 1 month before her birth, and Sun was at 26, Aries 29, almost 30. The same way you see next global solar eclipse mode, and you get November 3rd, and the Sun is at almost 17 Libra. So note all these down, especially when you want to have a deep dive into somebody's chart. Watch those points. Okay, any questions so far? Can I go on with the presentation?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So from this point of view, maybe this will be clearer if you know this, how to find the degree points. I don't know, I'm not using another software. If you want, you can try from another software. So step one is, of course, to know the degree of the first lunar and solar eclipse immediately before birth and after birth. So it doesn't matter if you're born in June and the next season of eclipses is in November. Just check them out. Second step, see the nakshatra, because Sunil sir has taught this in a nakshatra class. You can see the nakshatra of those degrees. So you have to see, you noted the moons and suns degrees during the eclipse, and you see where those degrees fall, in which nakshatra. That's why I was saying that it's very important to be very careful and also note the degree and the minute, because sometimes the minute can shift, the planet can shift to another nakshatra. So if you want, you can avoid the information about the nakshatra. Maybe it's a little bit advanced, so but if you're at all capable, note the nakshatra too. Step 3 is the technique itself, is that when transiting planets cross those eclipse degrees, events happen. So they could be good or bad. It depends on the planet and overall chart. So whenever transiting planets cross those eclipse degrees, events happen. So let's say you checked your eclipse degrees prior and after birth in your chart. You took a note, and then you see in which houses those eclipse degrees fall. You check those degrees from moon. If you want, you can check it from Maruda Lagna, but of course from the main Lagna as a starting point would be, advisable. And then step 4, see if benefic or malefic cross that degree. That's very important. See which planet crosses the eclipse degree. See those planets' lordship. So let's say that Venus is crossing that eclipse degree and you're getting married on that day, right? Or around, when Venus crosses the eclipse degree, or Jupiter, or you have a Jupiter-Venus conjunction over there. Okay, and also see what nakshatra gets lit up. Because, if your eclipse degree is, at the cross point between two nakshatras, you have, let's see, if let's see, you have an eclipse point at, let's say, first nakshatra in Ashwini, at the very end of Ashwini nakshatra, at 13, 12, 20. And your nakshatra point is at 13, 15, let's say, yeah. So that's going to get influenced from both sides, into Ashwini, but also a little bit into Bharani. So that's going to be important to see. That's why I mentioned here. See which nakshatra gets lit up. It's going to be the eclipse nakshatra, but also it might be the neighboring one if your eclipse degree is at all, at a point between two nakshatras. So that's for the advanced ones who want to take into consideration the nakshatra part of this technique. Then look where the Nakshatra Lord is in transit and in natal. Like Sunil sir is teaching us to follow transits of a planet, both where the Lord of that planet is in transit and also in the natal chart. So look where that Nakshatra Lord is in transit and in natal. That will be the area where the result will happen. So actually that's very important because I followed that in this presentation. I'm aware that for the beginners it's going to be quite difficult to grasp at first, but maybe in time, if they rewatch this presentation, it's going to be easier. So look where the Nakshatra Lord is in transit and in natal. So for instance, if your eclipse point is in Ashwini and is getting activated in transit, by Jupiter or Venus, see where Ketu is in natal and in transit. Yeah, because Ashwini is getting activated, your eclipse point is in Ashwini and the planet is transiting there. So check where that Nakshatra Lord is placed in natal and in transit. Okay, so I'm gonna illustrate this. Maybe it's gonna get clearer through examples. Any questions so far? I'm sure everybody's having trouble calculating all of this, but in time, just take this technique into account. You can strip it to the very basics. Just leave nakshatras. My presentation is focused on nakshatras because I did this PPT before the nakshatra course, and just see the degree of your solar or lunar eclipses and watch transits to that. That's it. Don't go further if this is too complicated right now. Don't go into nakshatras at all. Just see what planet transits over there. If it's Saturn, if it's Rahu, if it's Moon, even Moon can trigger, especially if it's aspected by other planets. Okay, first example. In this chart, I highlighted the solar eclipses with the red, and I also noted the degrees for easy reference for everybody. And the lunar eclipses I noted in light blue and the degrees too. So these are the eclipse points in this chart for this native. The eclipses prior and after birth, immediately prior and after birth. Okay, and I also noted them down over here for your easy reference. Solar eclipse before birth was on 8 April 2005, and it occurred at 2511 Pisces. And I noted it over here in the chart where it falls in which house, right? Which planets are over there. Okay, that's another issue. And the solar eclipse after birth that occurred on October 3rd, 2005. So native was born on May 18th, 2005. So the eclipse, solar eclipse prior was in April and after was in October. And you know those 2 degrees over here, Sun at 25 Pisces and 16 Virgo. Okay, so these are the solar eclipses. And then I did the same for the lunar eclipse, over here in light blue, 24th of April at 10:18 Libra. And I took a note over here for your easy reference. And then the lunar eclipse after his birth, which occurred on October 17th at 012 Aries. So this is a tricky point over here. It's a Gandanta point. So yes, sir.
Somebody has posted in the chat for me. Okay. Can you just quickly once again show Jagannath Hora? And for example, you said solar eclipse before birth and after birth. The degree and the sign, how are you identifying? If you can once again show it. People are young.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Let me share the Jagannath Hora again. Okay. So again, can you see this? Right. Okay. So again, Angelina Jolie's chart. Jolie. 4th of June, 1975. Okay. Let's go from the basics. This is the basic, where Jagannath Hora opens for any chart you have already in your software. So you select the chart, whatever you want from here. Let's say somebody else, Cameron. No, that's not. It's too tricky. Let's say Charlie Chaplin. Okay. We're taking somebody else. Charlie Chaplin, April 16th, 1889. Okay. And this is the basic screen from Jagannatha. And then you go to mundane over here. Mundane over here, and you click that. All right. And over here in the middle of the screen, you have the eclipse mode, right? Eclipse mode. And you want to find out, you're going to use only that, center piece of the screen. You have to see the degrees where the previous solar and lunar eclipse occurred and the solar and lunar eclipse after birth. So before his birth, when did the lunar eclipse occur? So it wasn't like that. You go to first here, find the previous. All right. And then go here and select lunar. And you check maximum, not the start, the maximum, because it's going to shift. The degrees are going to shift. In a matter of a few hours, the moon shifts quite a lot. So check the maximum and then click eclipse mode. So this nice little thing will appear in the center of the screen where it enumerates the, all the penumbral and partial phases and whatever, and the maximum eclipse point. And then you click OK, and you check the data over here. It was January 17th, 1889, so before his birth, the hour. And then you look, because we're checking a lunar eclipse over here. It's the moon's degree that's very important. And you check moon at what degree was during the maximum phase of the lunar eclipse. So it was 5 Cancer 01. All right, so note that down.
5 degree.
501. It's very important, the minutes too. Okay, because if you say 5 degree, it can be 5:59 if you don't write down from the very start. And also, if you see over here, the nakshatra is also mentioned. I don't know if you can see that. The nakshatra is also mentioned for those who want to use the nakshatra in this technique. So moon, degree, minute, and nakshatra. All right. And same way you go to the next lunar. And you click eclipse mode. So we're going to jump forward in time after his birth. So that's going to be July 12, right? It says over here, July 12, 1889. July 12, okay, the hour, if you want to note it, but it's not important in this instance. So moon was at 28 Sagittarius 14. Okay, which nakshatra was it? It was in Uttarashada. Okay, so like this, you note moon's eclipse degrees, prior and after birth. Okay, then you click to back to natal chart so as to avoid any further confusion. Back to natal chart. So you have, his birth data over here. And then you click previous for the solar eclipse. You go to global solar eclipse. Again, maximum. Yeah, so you have all these options over here. Previous global solar maximum. And let's see when the first solar eclipse prior to his birth occurred. You click eclipse mode. Of course, this beautiful thing appears in the middle and you click OK on it because it's not helping right now. And you see it was on January 1st, 1889, right? 1889. And you see sun's degree this time, not moon's, because we're checking solar eclipses. So sun's degree is the most important in this moment. And you see sun was at 1926, almost 27. Yeah, so note this little difference. And if you want to check the nakshatra, it's Purvashada. All right. The same way you go to the next global solar. So we're jumping forward in time to June 28. Again, we note sun's solar eclipse degree and the nakshatra. It was in Ardra nakshatra. Okay. So sun at 14:30 Gemini in Ardra. Okay. So like this, you have now 4 very important degrees to put in the natal chart and to use. Just make a note of them because Jagannath will not give you these degrees if you do not calculate them like this. They will never show on the chart. Okay, you have to, mentally put them in your chart wherever they are. See in which houses they fall. Is this clear? Okay, I can return to the presentation. All right. So the first example, do you want me to go to the, thank you, Punam. Do you want me to go to the technique itself again? Okay, let me just show it again quickly. All right. So the eclipse degrees. Step 1, note the degrees of the lunar and solar eclipse immediately before birth and immediately after birth. So it's going to be only two, sets of eclipses in a year, usually in spring and in fall. It depends. It may vary. So note those degrees like I showed you. Then second step is to see the nakshatra of these degrees. Actually, the second step would be to note them in your chart, where they are falling, in which houses. Okay, which house is that? And you can just stop right there. Check those degrees, in which houses they fall from your main lagna. If you want, you can go to check them from moon and from Maruda Lagna, but you don't have to make it crazy. Just keep it simple. Look at those degrees in your chart from the main lagna. Okay. If you want to go serious about it, let's see the nakshatra. Okay, where that falls. Actually, you might have made a note of that nakshatra when you noted the degrees, so that should help. All right. Then step 3 is the technique itself. Whenever transiting planets cross those eclipse degrees, events happen. Right. So check for transit for those degrees, to those degrees. Actually, check for, if possible, check for, when there are multiple transits to that degree. Those will be the most important moments. And the degrees will get activated. Then step 4, see if benefics or malefics are crossing that degree. Okay, see those planets' lordship. Like for instance, if Saturn is crossing that lunar eclipse point at some point, and Saturn is Lagna Lord, then you might have some event regarding your health or your profession, or maybe you want to lose some weight or something. Whatever Saturn means in your chart as Lagna Lord, you can carry that signification to checking that transit of Saturn to the eclipse degree. So see if benefic or malefic cross that degree. See if check for times when multiple planets cross that degree, or there are very very small. I mean, very few occurrences in life when several planets are in the same degree on your eclipse degree. That's going to be very rare in your life. But you can see if one of them is exactly on that degree and some other planet is around or very close by or aspecting to the degree. Those would be very important times. And see those planets' lordship and, of course, the nakshatra that gets lit up. And step 5, for those who want to use the nakshatra, a part of this technique, look where the nakshatra lord is in transit and in natal. So for instance, let's say Revati nakshatra, you have an eclipse point in the Revati nakshatra at the end of Pisces, let's say 28 Pisces. And you see Revati nakshatra's lord is Mercury. And you have a transit over there. Whichever planet is transiting over there, it can be Mars, it can be Jupiter, whatever. The nakshatra lord of that eclipse point is going to get triggered. See where Mercury is sitting in your chart and also where it is transiting, in what house. So this is for the advanced nakshatra batch students of Sunil sir. All right. And you will see where the result would happen. So actually that's a very, this is a very, very good part of this technique because it will allow you to see exactly what's going to happen. Very beautiful technique. All right. Okay, I hope this is clear and I can go to the first example. Good. So the first example, I calculated the degrees like I showed you, and I noted the solar degrees and their, the degrees and minutes over here, and the lunar degrees, the lunar eclipse degrees. And I also noted them here when they occurred, the solar eclipse before his birth and after his birth. When it occurred is not so much important, but the degree is. So note the degree. All right, so you have already two very sensitive degrees only from the solar eclipses in your chart, right? Then you do the same for the lunar eclipses before and after birth. Okay, so note the degrees. So immediately you see that you have 4 important degrees in your chart you didn't know you had. So it's a very big surprise. That's it's very important to see. So you have already in this chart, in this person's case, you have a very sensitive degree in Pisces, one opposite in Virgo, and then you have another couple opposite degrees in Libra and Aries. So actually, in this case, it's 4 signs who have these sensitive points. Usually there are only 2, but in this case, it's 4. I'm going to show you some example further, and you're going to see that. So all these degrees, note them down in your chart. And then let's see, I took an example of such a transit. Okay, so this is the natal chart inside, the same natal chart, all right? And this is the transit chart outside. And I took the transits for 2nd of April, 2023. Okay. So I noted the first lunar degree, which was triggered by a transit by Ketu. And I also noticed a solar degree point, which was triggered by Jupiter-Sun conjunction at the same time, in the same day. All right. So 2 eclipse degrees were triggered. Ketu was transiting at 10 degree Libra. All right, so Ketu was over here in Swati Nakshatra, over his lunar eclipse point at 10:18 Libra. So Ketu was exactly at 10 degree Libra, and lunar eclipse was at 10:18. So very, 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 very close. And that activated his lunar eclipse point. Okay. Then Nakshatra Lord, because again, I took the Nakshatra part of it too. The Nakshatra Lord of Swati is Rahu. And you check that Rahu in his chart is the 3rd Lord of talking and of breakups. And it is placed in the 4th house in his case, in the 4th house of heart, where you get most sensible, most sensitive. And of course, you check Nakshatra Lord Rahu also in transit, and it is over here in the 5th house. So you have to see that lunar degree point is getting activated, first of all, by Ketu's conjunction to it in transit. And then you go check to see the Nakshatra Lord of this eclipse point, which in this case is Swati, ruled by Rahu. And then the next step is to see where Rahu is, what is doing in this person's chart, because it might, be different for somebody else. I forgot to mention that many people, like for instance, this guy who was born in 18th of May 2005, he and a lot of other people in this world were born within that time frame between these 2 eclipses, 2 sets of eclipses. So these degrees are important to note down for all the births happening between, those 6 months when the 2 sets of eclipses occurred. So these eclipse points are not valid only for this guy. They are valid for all the people born within that time frame. All right, let me go back and see you more clearly. Okay, so he was born May 18, 2005. But the first solar eclipse occurred on April 8th. Right? And the next one on 3rd October. So everybody born between April 8th and 3rd of October 2005 will have these 2 degrees, sensitive in their chart. Okay, so it's like of course millions of people may be born within that time frame, but these degrees will be may vary a little bit because of the country they are born in, right? So take into consideration the birth location. For moon, it's going to be a little bit, maybe it may vary a little bit. For sun, not so much. Okay, so this degree, keep in mind, they're going to be important for all those people born between April and October. Okay, so they're important for a lot of other people. But in his chart, just in any particular chart of the person born between these 6 months, uh, where are they falling? In this case, it's gonna be fifth house, fourth house, 10th house, 11th house. In another chart, it might be with a different lagna, it might be in another set of houses. Yeah. So this is how you use these calculations of yours for many other people. I'm gonna go to the example. So his transits for April 2nd, 2023. So a couple of years back, 2.5 years back. So this is a lunar eclipse point, sensitive point with blue, and Ketu was transiting over it. And this is a solar degree sensitive point, and Sun and Jupiter were over it. Okay, so Ketu was transiting, like I said, very, very, very closely to lunar eclipse point, only 18 minutes away. So very, very strong influence. And then you check if you want to use the nakshatra point of view. You check Swati because the eclipse point was in Swati, ruled by Rahu. And nakshatra Lord Rahu, you see what it does in the chart. It is in the 4th house of matters of the heart. And it is also the 3rd lord of breakups and talks and some communication. And then you can check it also in transit. And it is in transit in the 5th house of this native, right? So you can immediately guess what happened, only based on this small degree, lunar eclipse degree, all right? Okay, so I'm not going to tell you, only in the end. The second point that got activated is a solar eclipse point on the same day, right? Jupiter was transiting at 25-23 Pisces in Revati Nakshatra. And the solar eclipse point is 2511. So only 12 minutes away. That's why I said it's important to note the minute too, not just the degree. Because in this way, you're going to get absolutely ravished with this beautiful technique. You'll see how well it works and such good predictions you can make for a person like that using only this technique. So Jupiter was transiting at the same degree with the solar eclipse point over here in the 4th house. It was transiting in Revati Nakshatra. Okay, and you see Nakshatra Lord, Mercury. Nakshatra Lord Mercury, where is it in the chart? It is in his 5th house of love. Okay, and he's also transiting the 5th house, right? You can go further and see which are his lordships. So it's the 7th house and the 10th house. So again, 7th house, 5th house, a lot of connections regarding love, right? And of course, 10th house so shows some visible moment in your life where you're going to some place where you're very visible. So the event was like that. The native had a big argument, 3rd house, with his girlfriend, 5th house, because she had cheated on him. Okay, and they soon broke up after that. And the consequence is that the native was very depressed for more than a year, and he could not trust another girl. He could not even, get close to another girl for a couple of years. And this was a very, very important transit for him. It contributed to his, mental makeup regarding relationships. So I showed this example because it activated at the same time 2 very important sensitive points caused by these eclipses. Okay. Any questions about this one? Okay. Let me go on. Example number 2, another chart. This chart over here is a different, person. And the eclipse points, the red ones are for the solar eclipses. So the first solar eclipse is at 7:18 Scorpio over here in the 4th house. Just note the fact that it is very closely conjoined Ketu. If there is an eclipse point somewhere close to a planet, just make a note of that. You see his Ketu is at 8:55, so very, very close in degree. So it's going to have an importance. The other solar eclipse after birth took place at 5:33 Taurus over here in the 10th house. Okay, so immediately you can say that something about, natal place or mother and career is gonna get some extra influence in this person's life. He's gonna get more transits, more important things regarding these two houses. And the same way you check the lunar eclipse points and you note them, the one before birth and the one after his birth, and you'll note that actually he has two important sensitive points in his 10th house. So that's going to be a very sensitive place for him. And the other lunar eclipse occurred in the 3rd house. Okay. So the first example, if you remember, had 4 signs activated by all the 4 eclipses. And this time there's only 3 signs activated by the eclipses. So it's Taurus, Scorpio, and Libra. The other one had Pisces, Virgo, and Aries, Libra. Okay, so these are the eclipse points and the dates when they occurred prior to his birth and after his birth. Okay, I know there's a lot of information condensed into one page, but I'm sure once you get the hang of it, it's going to be useful if you check this video further. And now I took an example of a transit, how these eclipse points got triggered for him. So inside we have the natal chart, and outside we have the transits for 21st December 83. So let's see what happened then. So the lunar eclipse point got activated. Rahu was transiting over there. All right, another lunar eclipse at the same time was getting activated by Saturn-Venus transits. Okay. So Rahu was transiting first point over here at 22 Taurus in the Rohini Nakshatra. The lunar eclipse point is at 22:56 in Taurus. So very, very just, half a degree away. So that's going to be very important. And you see Rohini's Nakshatra Lord is Moon. That's why I circled it over here and over here. And you see that Nakshatra Lord Moon is in 12th, is the 12th Lord over here. Cancer is the 12th house. So it is the 12th Lord of Hospitals in Maraka 7th house, joined by Mars, who is Karaka of surgery, and 6th Lord of disease, Saturn. Yeah? So Saturn is a very big, troublesome planet for all Leo Lagna born people. So transiting Nakshatra Lord Moon again, we're seeing it transiting the Gemini sign, the 11th house, which is the 6th from the 6th house. If you're using the Bhavat Bhavam concept Sunil sir has been urging us to use. So it also shows some disease or surgery. In this case, you can see that Moon is over his Aruda Lagna, so another important Lagna to use in the chart. Okay, and from the natal Moon as Lagna, you see that Moon is transiting the 5th house of the abdomen. All right. So the second point, also a lunar degree point, was in Libra, in Swati, right? So Saturn was 1923 and very close to 2040. So over here, it's more than a degree apart, but still very significant when it is, two such sensitive points are getting activated at the same time. So Nakshatra Lord of Swati again is Rahu. Rahu is in the 10th house, in both in natal and in transit. And Rahu is triggering actually the eclipse point. Rahu is over his natal Jupiter too, who's the 8th lord, of surgery. Okay, so you can immediately see that a very transformative event happened. Event is that native had an appendectomy, surgery in the stomach area. Okay, so that's the second example. So you see how important it is. Actually, a surgery to have, it's it's not something you do every day. So very important triggering of these eclipse points. So first we have Rahu over here and Saturn very close over here, 1.5 degrees away. Actually, less than half, 1 and something, 20 minutes. Example 3, George Clooney. So I took two, normal people examples. Now I'm gonna go to celebrities. So Mr. Clooney's chart, I calculated his eclipses point. And over here, again, we have 3 signs getting activated by these beautiful, colorful dots of eclipses. And okay, so his solar eclipses first, before birth and after birth, right? The red dots in the chart and the degrees, and then the lunar eclipse points before and after birth. So you have to go, write down manually, take them down on a piece of paper. So this is his chart and how it got, where are the sensitive points of the eclipses. So I took an example, transiting example, transit for 26th October 2005. So this is the natal chart and outside are the transits for 26th of October. And let's see what it triggered. So first, solar eclipse point was triggered. Okay, and all the planets I'm going to explain soon. Right? So only one point was triggered. Okay, Mars was retrograde in transit. Okay, 2510 Aries. Aspecting with its fourth aspect, the solar eclipse point at 2513 Cancer in Ashlesha Nakshatra. So this is not a conjunction, it's an aspect of Mars. So take into account aspects too. Lagna Lord Saturn was at 1643 Cancer, so not very far away, close by, let's say, less than 10 degrees. While the 6th Lord Moon was exactly on the degree at 2533 Cancer. Okay, so Moon was a triggering factor. Okay, so Mars was aspecting degreically, Moon is exactly on that point, and Saturn is close by. So you have to take that influence too, because it's going to be important. Okay, Rahu was also aspecting close by. See, Rahu was over here in his transiting his second house. It was at 1934 Pisces. So this degree of 25 Cancer was again activated by this Rahu transit. And you go to the Nakshatra Lord of the Ashlesha, where the solar eclipse point is situated. So Nakshatra Lord Mercury is what in his chart? First of all, you see it's his 8th Lord of trauma. It is placed in the 3rd house, natal 3rd house, house of accidents and acting. And it is at 25 Aries. Transiting Nakshatra Lord Mercury is over here in his 10th house in Scorpio. Okay, Scorpio, take its significations as meaning, something not very pleasant. And the event was that he had a brain injury on that day. So while filming a scene for Syriana, he fell and injured his head, and spinal fluid began to leak from his nose. He later had to undergo 2 surgeries to repair it, but it took weeks for the doctor to figure out what was wrong with him. And he, remained with lifelong pain because of that incident. So it's a very significant incident. In this case, it's only one eclipse point getting activated, but it is activated badly, by 3 malefics, very precisely by Mars, and close by Rahu and Saturn. And Moon being there triggered that, put everything together, like a glue, made everything possible in a bad way for him. So take into account aspects. You have to have a planet very, very close in degree to the eclipse point, at least one planet. maybe 2, and see if there are any other, planets contributing to that event around that time. Okay, questions about this? Okay, let me go on. Example number 4 with Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he has, again, 3 signs activated by his eclipse degrees. And these are the solar eclipses and the lunar eclipses points. Okay, noted for your reference over here. So he has 6th house, 12th house, and 5th house activated and easily influenced by transits. And then an example from his life of November 17th, 2003. Okay, so this is the eclipse point, solar eclipse, that got activated. Okay, so just 1 point. So Ketu was transiting at 2632 Libra in Vishaka Nakshatra on top of his natal Jupiter at 25 Libra. The solar eclipse point is at 2629. Okay, so very, 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 very close to the solar eclipse. Ketu is situated in transit. Nakshatra Lord of Vishaka is Jupiter, and that's why I underlined Jupiter over here. Jupiter is the 10th Lord of career and the 7th Lord of Padaprapti, which is a secondary house of career. Okay, so Jupiter is very important for his career, and it is placed in the 5th house of power. And transiting Nakshatra Lord was in his 3rd house in Leo. So 3rd house is gain of power because it is the 11th from the 5th house. So 11th from any house, Sunil sir has taught us that is the gains from that house. So the gains from that 5th house is the 3rd house. And it's, of course, it is also in Leo, which means authority and power. And the event is he had been elected governor of California on October 7th. On November 17th, which is the date of the transit, he was sworn in. Okay, so he had a very beautiful, nice event triggered by the eclipse. So you don't have to have only bad events, you can have amazingly good events. All right, depends on who's transiting. Over here it was Ketu, okay? But you can see that Ketu is the 6th Lord. 6th Lord of work, of a job. He got a job. So don't jump to conclusions that it's going to be something bad. Whenever you see Ketu, okay, it may be mostly bad because, it's a very demanding job what he has, being governor of a state. And of course, you can see from Moon too, you see Ketu is in the 11th house of honors, titles, and, achievements. So you can see from multiple points of view and you'll get multiple, clues. And then Harrison Ford's example. In his case, he has, again, 4 houses over here. So Cancer, Leo, Aquarius, and Pisces. So very, very busy man. Okay, his solar eclipse points and his lunar eclipse points. Okay, and then we go to a transit chart for him. Transit for 22nd September 1966, where we have a solar eclipse degree getting activated by Saturn. So Saturn is his 5th lord. It is transiting at 238 Pisces in Purva Bhadrapada, aspecting his Lagna. Solar eclipse point is at 243, so very, very close by again. Nakshatra lord of Purva Bhadrapada is Jupiter, and it is in the 10th house of happiness and marriage. And in transit, it is in the 11th house of spouse and children. So the transiting Nakshatra lord is exalted in the 11th house. It is over his 8th lord Mars, which Sunil sir has urged us to use to research on it, showing birth of an heir, so of children. Jupiter was at 553 Cancer, closely aspecting the solar eclipse point. So this is the solar eclipse point. Saturn was right on top of it, and Jupiter was very, very closely aspecting. So his first child, Benjamin, was born. A very good case where his eclipse point got triggered. All right, and the last example, Angelina Jolie, just like I showed you in the Jagannath Hora. So she has, again, 4 signs getting activated by these eclipses. Right? And I took an example for her too. This is the transit chart for February 16th, 2013. Okay, let's see. We have a solar degree point getting activated by Saturn and Rahu. And another one also. A bonus activation of another. So both solar eclipse points. Okay, Saturn was at 17 Libra in Swati, so over here. The solar eclipse point is at 1659, so half a degree away. Transiting Mars was at 1741 Aquarius, okay, in perfect trine to both Saturn and the solar eclipse point. All right. Okay, Nakshatra Lord of Swati is Rahu. It is the 8th Lord over here. It is the 8th Lord of the chart, placed in the 5th house in his natal chart in Scorpio, which means surgery. And transiting Nakshatra Lord Rahu is with Saturn over here on his, on his eclipse point, not degreecally on it, but close by. So it, contributed to the event. Ketu was transiting at 2636 Aries in Bharani, and the eclipse point is 2629 Aries, so very, very close again. And Lagna Lord Moon was over here, also in Bharani, at around 24 Aries. I didn't have the exact moment when the event happened, so that's why I said Moon was at around 24 Aries, but very, very close. So they're both aspecting the 4th house. Nakshatra Lord of Bharani, Venus, is in Cancer. In his Lagna, which is the house of, Cancer is the natural sign of the chest area. In transit, Venus is in Maraka 7th house, which is also using the Bhavat Bhavan concept, the 4th from the 4th house. And the event was she had a preventative double mastectomy. So, she had her breasts removed for fear of cancer. She was not actually having been diagnosed with cancer, but after the traumatic loss of her mother due to breast cancer, she thought to have a preventative surgery because she didn't want to go through that. Okay, so that was the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. It was very long and complicated. Sorry for that. Yeah, stopped sharing. Questions? Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody. I know it's a slightly advanced concept. Surajit, yes, I was expecting a question from you, my dear. But anyways, you always ask good questions to the point. Please go ahead and ask.
Yes, sir. My question is, will the aspect also be less affected if the transiting degree and the eclipse points differ significantly? It will be less or not?
Okay, so I showed an example where, 3 malefics were aspecting the eclipse degree. Only one was exactly to the degree and almost to the minute. But the other malefics were, one was at 6 degrees, I think, and one was further. So you have to take into consideration all the influences. The more closer the degrees are, of the transiting planets to the eclipse point, the more important the event. Otherwise, you just have to see, like I showed in the last example, Mars was just broadly aspecting with its trinal aspect the eclipse degree. So look at everything, but mainly look at the Greekal influence. Okay.
So if there is no malefic aspects,
It mustn't be malefic. It mustn't be malefic. It may be only benefics. So you just have to see which kind of event, which house is getting triggered, who's transiting. It may be Jupiter and Saturn, so one malefic, one benefic. look at what their role is in the chart, because Jupiter might be a functional malefic, for Libra, for instance, Libra Lagna. So take everything into account as much as you know, according to the extent of your knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
Mitesh.
Paul Bart. Next question, Mr. Paul.
Hello there. Good morning. It's just dawn here in England. Thank you for that. It was a very interesting lecture. I did follow it all the way through. Thank you. I think you've possibly answered this already. So my question was, we do take into consideration transit conjunctions, which I think is the most significant, but also Graha Drishti aspects and triangle relationships.
Yes. Yes.
So the same tattoo is what you're saying. Okay, so I think you've answered that. Thank you. So, and the other point is, obviously, we're talking about lunar eclipses that may be more emotional and solar eclipses that have a different flavour. Have you any comment to make about the nature of the events, depending on whether it's the lunar or solar eclipse? So it's a fairly broad general question, really.
Yes. Yeah, you can, of course, you can correlate that to solar eclipses. If you remember Arnold Schwarzenegger chart, his solar eclipse point was triggered when he became governor of California.
So more on the career side, or power, if you like, or authority.
Yeah. So yeah, you can use that, of course, but also never forget the house that gets activated, because that's going to be most important. The house getting activated, where the eclipse point is sitting actually, and if you can and want to use the nakshatra lord, so much the better. That will actually direct you very, very well to the event.
Yeah, that's interesting, because there is the focus on the house being activated, but also where the nakshatra lord and the house where it's placed. Are they both equal in importance, or is it former or the latter?
A sign is 30 degrees and a nakshatra is 13 degrees 20. So a nakshatra always carries more depth, is closer, it's more closer to the event.
More focused. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much indeed.
Sure, welcome.
Thanks, Paul Barker. He's a very senior astrologer. We've known him for a few years at least. One question that Paul asked, solar eclipse or lunar eclipse? I have been asking this question to senior astrologers, and incidentally, you get wavered answers. One answer which I got, which sounds logical, but it doesn't mean we need to stick to that answer, okay, is, okay, in solar eclipse, one has to see in the chart which is more afflicted in the natal chart. Sun or moon, which is more afflicted. In Arnold's thing, Sun is afflicted in his natal chart. Saturn, Sun.
Yes.
And Saturn, Sun, Venus. So solar eclipses could have probably more, and if other transits also give it a push to give more so that could be one way. Each eclipse would be different, no doubt about it. Okay, each eclipse would be different. But it's like your natal, you're in a boxing match or you're in a martial art fight with someone. Which of your hand is the weakest? The opponent will attack that first. It's like that way kind of thinking. But anyway, good points. Yes, Mr. Mitesh Sampath.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ma'am, for such a good presentation training. So my question is, can you suggest some good book for like beginner on this topic, like Dasha transit, timing of events, Panchang, degree of transit? So
I suggest the Sunil Sir's beginner's course for that.
Like that. There's one very good book by late Prabodh Purohit. I have shared the link of it in the chat box long back, I think half an hour back. You all should read that. I had made him write that book. It is there in the, just see in the chat box, the link of it is there. And I had made him write that book. A dear friend of mine, a great, super great human being, and very humble astrologer, very deeply he would go. He spent a lot of time in creating this book. whatever I knew of these eclipses, including this technique that Daniela has presented, I had shared. When this book was published, I do not know if he used this technique or not. I did not get time to read it. In fact, all the books published by Saptarishi Publication, I have never read it. It's one of those to-do lists since 10 years of publishing books. But you can start with this book, and you should also read his another book on Prashna, which is very good on timing. Even my detractors have said it is the finest book apart from Pullipani Jyotidam that Saptarishi's publication has brought out. Okay, so you all should read that book. He was a master in Prashna. I hope I've answered your book. Vimshotri Dasha, good books by. To start with, K.N. Rao has written on Vimshotri Dasha. You can start with that. It's many
So
other
which book
great.
Ken Rao sir has written? Sorry.
I think it is Vimshotri Dasha.
Okay.
All books of K.N. Rao you should read. All books. 2 years will
Okay.
go, but the astrological level, each book 3 times, 5 times, if we read. One of his best books, I had spoken to Anil, one of his right-hand man. Okay. Anil's choice was tried techniques in astrology of K.N. Rao.
Okay.
Small book, but you all should read it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you have finished with the questions, I hope this was not a heavy lecture. I know it needed to be a lengthy lecture because many people do not use eclipses. So, Chetan, Rajesh, everybody present here, please go through it again. Okay, yesterday evening's lecture, luckily we have uploaded it very fast. You can access it on Thinkific. This lecture, I'll try to push it right now to be uploaded. All right, sounds good, everybody. I'll see you all in the evening at 7:30 with Chandrasekhar Sharma ji. Don't miss that lecture. Whatever happens. Don't, he is, I've known him since 2002. He and Ramdas Rao, Sri Ramdas Rao, who's now the legend in Bhrigunandi Nadi. Okay. These two people have been my friends since 2002 when I entered into social media, Yahoo groups at that time, Sanjay Rat's group. It was PVR's group, PVR Narasimha Rao's. So they've been good friends, and so he's an elderly man, 80 now, I think so, 80 now. Okay. So he has very traditional knowledge. He learned he started learning at the age of 8, sitting on his father's lap. 72 years now of experience, and very nice, very humble man. Okay. He's written a lot of books. He has translated books. 2 of his books we published, Laghu Parashari and all that. Okay. So many other books he's published from other publishers also. Okay. You all should read his books, very classical. He has blogs, websites. So you understand you are dealing with a very senior person and we can't ask very fundamental questions also. Please understand that. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, quick feedback from you all. I hope the mixture of lectures, the diversity of lectures, the quality of techniques, you all are, I hope nobody's dissatisfied. I've kept it reduced from 120 lectures. I've reduced it to 45, 50 lectures only. Because I can't handle the stress of coordination. So thank you so much. Take care, everybody. I hope there is something for everybody. Even if you get 5 lectures, good ones, most important is practice, practice. Trust me, what she has taught. Every time you cast a prashna, you'll get 4 dates. These 4 dates, solar before, after, lunar eclipse before, after. You just tell the date to the person, he'll understand what you're talking. Out of these 4 dates, 2 का guarantee मैं लेता हूँ. 2 are guaranteed events. Are you getting it? Triggering of something, triggering of something. triggering. Triggering is so difficult. You have to be a master of activation technique. Suppose you have done some gossiping, Prashna is of today. Suppose you've done some gossiping, okay, 2 months before. You see the eclipse happening in the third house. Okay. The Lord of it, where it goes and sits, the result will come in the Prashna. That is all. It is very advanced. Even I can't master it. It is very, very subtle. What event is giving the activation where? Are you getting it? For example, what do you see? Third Lord in 10th house. That means your profession can have something to do with communication, writing, maybe IT also, writing or communication or skill set. Third is skill set. Are you getting it? So that is so many events you have to. So you have to narrow it down. You will only become a master after years of thousands of charts. Ladies and gentlemen, lunchtime. Thank you so much, Daniela. Thank you so much,
Thank you, sir.
Manish Agarwal, and everybody. Great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.